Hello everyone, this is Shiv Prem, a legal intern at Lexis and Company and currently pursuing BLLB honors from Central University of South Bihar. In this today's session, I will be dealing with the achievements of family courts in India. So, let us start this topic. Family courts have been set up to deal with problems that arise on the breakdown of marriage, divorce, restitution of conjugal rights, claims of alimony, and maintenance and custody of children. The setting up of family courts does not in any way alter the substantive law relating to the marriage. Section 3 of the Act empowers the state government after consulting with the High Court to establish a family court. Section 7 confers all the family courts the power and jurisdiction exercisable by any district court or any subordinate civil court in suits and proceedings of the nature referred in the explanation to Section 7 Clause 1 of the Act. There is an enabling provision that the family courts may exercise such other jurisdiction as may be conferred on them by any other enactment. Provisions has also been made to exclude jurisdiction of other courts in respect of matters for which the family court has been conferred jurisdiction. Chapter 4 of the Act deals with the procedure of the family court. It has been made incumbent to these courts to see that the parties are assisted and persuaded to come to a settlement, and for this purpose they have been authorized to follow the procedure specified by the High Court by the means of rules to be made by it. If there is a possibility of settlement between the parties and if there is some delay in arriving at such a settlement, the family court is empowered to adjourn the proceedings until the settlement is reached. Under these provisions, different high courts have different rules of procedure for the determination and settlement of disputes by the family courts. In the rules made by the Madhya Pradesh High Court, the family court judge is also involved in the settlement, and if the settlement cannot be reached, then a regular trial follows. It is also been provided that the proceedings may be held in camera if the family court or if the either party so desires. The family court has also been given the power to obtain assistance of legal and welfare experts. Section 13 provides that the party before a family court shall not be entitled as of the right to be represented by a legal practitioner. However, the court may, in the interest of justice, provide assistance of legal expert in amicus curiae. Evidence may be given by affidavit also, and it is open to the family court to summon and examine any person as of the facts contained in the affidavit. The judgment of the family court in concise and simple contains the points for the determination and the reason for the same. The decree of the family court can be executed in accordance with the provisions of the CPC or CRPC as the case may be. An appeal against the judgment or order of the family court lies to the High Court. The Act gives power to each of the High Courts to make rules for the procedure to be followed by the family courts in arriving at the settlements and other matters. The central government has been given the power to make rules prescribing additional qualifications for appointment of a judge of the family court. The state government has also been empowered to make rules providing for inter alia the salaries of the family court judges, terms and condition of the services of counsellors and other procedural matters. The Act was expected to facilitate satisfactory resolution of disputes concerning the family through a forum, and this forum was expected to work expeditiously in just a manner and with an approach ensuring maximum welfare of the society and the dignity of women. The Act also brought civil and criminal jurisdiction under one roof. This was seen as a positive measure to centralize all litigation concerning women. Secondly, the very nature of the criminal courts facilitated quicker disposal of applications to a civil court. Thirdly, there was seriousness and a sense of intimidation associated with a criminal court, which would act in a woman's favor. Also, the Act brought under one roof with matters which were handled by 40 odd magistrates and at least 2 courts in the city civil court, in the five judges courtroom in the city of Mumbai. While the act laid down the broad guidelines, it was left to the state to frame the rules of the procedure. However, most state governments did not bother to frame the rules and set up family courts. Rajasthan and Karnataka were the first 2 states to set up family courts, but soon women litigants as well as the activists were disillusioned with the functioning of the courts. The overall situation is the same everywhere, with minor differences. In Tamil Nadu, the marriages counselors keep changing every 3 months, and each time the woman meets a new counselor, she has to explain her problems all over again, with no continuity in the discussion. These courts were meant to endeavor in the first instance to effect reconciliation or settlement between the parties in a family dispute. During this stage, the proceedings would be informal and rigid rules of procedure would not apply. It is also provided that the courts could take assistance of the social welfare agencies and the counsellors, and also secure services of medical and welfare experts. The parties to a dispute are not entitled, as a matter of right, to be represented by legal practitioner. However, the court, in the interest of justice, can seek the assistance of legal experts as amicus curiae. The court is to follow simplified rules of evidence and the procedure so as to enable it to deal effectively with family disputes. The family courts are free to involve their own rules of procedure, and once a family court does so, the rules so framed override the rules of procedure contemplated under the Code of Civil Procedure. In fact, the Code of Civil Procedure was amended in order to fulfill the purpose behind the setting up of family courts. Special emphasis is put on setting up the disputes by mediation and conciliation. This ensures that the matter is solved by the agreement between both parties and reduces the chance of any further conflict. The aim is to give priority to mutual agreement over the usual process of adjudication. In short, the aim of these courts is to form congenial atmosphere where family disputes are resolved amicably. The cases are kept away from the trappings of a formal legal system. That's all for now. Let us meet in the next session with a different topic. Thank you.